Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Dugout, another European review, the final one of the qualifiers, and it ends in disappointment again for the four Scottish clubs as they all drop out or down competition. Battered and Brugged, an Almaty disaster. I'm joined by my usual co-host, Alexander Cruikshanks, and a special guest today, Ryan Niven. First of all, Alex, I'll go to you. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Obviously, a really disappointing week in Scottish football as a whole. I thought maybe last night Hibs were giving us a little bit of hope, but Hibs it as they usually do, and yeah, just all round quite depressing right now for Scottish football and for me personally as a Rangers supporter because it looks like the club's dissolving.
Yeah, and we're delighted to have Mr. Niven Ryan back on for how many times is that you've been on now? Is this the fourth time?
I think this is my fourth appearance, mate. I was delighted to get the call up. He's already scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Uh, Look, it's been a dreadful week for the Scottish teams in Europe. The coefficient's non-existent. I don't know if you guys follow the guy who does the coefficient stuff on X. It looks like we're going to be in serious trouble come not next season, but the season after. Not been a good week, obviously. Hibs it. We'll obviously talk about that. I've got my own views on that. Actually, quite positive views for once. I'm coming on here, and usually, you know me, I just slag off everybody. But this week, I'm coming on, and there's actual constructive stuff that I want to speak about with Hibs.
Yeah, and I think Hibs are maybe the most positive case, and that is really saying something. Talking about the coefficient, one of my opening points I wanted to make was that Scotland the other day dropped below Cyprus in the coefficients for leagues, which really sort of shows where we're at because they have a club in the Champions League this season, founded in 2014, which is just less than a year before Callum McGregor and James Tavernier made their debuts for Celtic and Rangers. So yeah, it shows probably how much Scotland's underperforming in Europe, especially Celtic and Rangers on this occasion. And I think that's where we should start on Tuesday night's game in Almaty, the Chinese border in Kazakhstan, where Celtic reversed the scoreline from last week at Celtic Park and drop out of the Champions League on penalties to Kairat Almaty after one of the worst matches of football, one of the worst two-legged affairs of football I think I've ever watched, Alex.
Yeah, it was grim stuff, not nothing against Almaty, they put their game plan out and they performed to perfection. You could see they were playing not to lose rather than playing to win. Obviously, they had some opportunities, but nothing super clear cut, maybe except from the indirect free kick. But other than that, they didn't really offer much of an attacking threat, but neither did Celtic. They dominated the ball and they did nothing with it. Daisen Maeda with back to back, terrible misses, and that sort of the dying moments of the game that could have won Celtic the tie on either occasions. I think because I think if Celtic had gone over, everything's better with hindsight. But if Celtic had gone over with a win, I don't think Kairat Almaty would have got back into it. And yeah, really poor from Celtic, and the fans are furious with the board, and looks like they're finally getting some signings in, but many of the supporters will say too little, too late.
Exactly that. And Ryan, what were your thoughts on the 120 minutes or 210 minutes in penalties as a whole?
Well, mate, honestly, people actually paid to watch those games of football, which is probably the worst part of it all. Um, I think we could all see it coming, to be honest, the week before when Celtic failed to beat them at home. Then you go out to Kazakhstan. Um, we can speak about the board not backing Brendan Rodgers all day long, but at the end of the day, that 11 on the park for Celtic should be doing a job against Kairat Almaty. No disrespect to them. They did their jobs perfectly. Defended like troopers. Got it to a penalty shootout. Then Celtic with some of the worst penalties I think I've seen in a while. Uh, Kasper Schmeichel. I don't know what he's doing at the penalties he's doing.
I saw a really funny tweet. I saw something that says, "Get him out right now," wobbling like a big green jelly and didn't save any one of the penalties.
I admit, like I was watching it, and he's probably like doing the old, and he's got not got near any of them. And I think brilliant from Almaty, brilliant for them. But Celtic, it's it's up there with one of the most embarrassing results in Scottish football history in Europe, because you look at the team, they're ranked below some very, very bad teams, and they've absolutely done Celtic. And I mean, Rangers fans will be happy that their worst team, the worst ever team in the Champions League record's about to be broken. But not a good night for Celtic at all.
You see, I understand your point about the rankings there, but I wouldn't look too much into that, because if you looked at the UEFA rankings, Rangers are in the top 30 teams in Europe right now, I think, or something like that. So, or top 40. So I wouldn't read too much into those rankings. But yeah, definitely it's a team that Celtic should have been beaten.
Yeah, and financially, they're just on different planets. Celtic squad is valued around 10 times the amount of Kairat Amatis. They're bringing in players for a few 100,000, whereas Celtic are bringing in players for a few million. And I know Celtic haven't spent enough, as we've all glossed over so many times. But I think all from the Celtic board to Dermot Desmond to Brendan Rodgers and to the players as well, have all got criticism from the fans, and rightfully so, because no matter the lack of backing that Brendan Rodgers has got, and we can all see that he hasn't got enough players in to support that squad before the qualifiers, he's still got a good enough squad there to go and beat Kairat Almaty, and they didn't. And credit to them, they put on they played exactly how they wanted the game to go. They didn't really create much, as Alex said, but they got to penalties, they got what they wanted, and they made no mistake in the shootout. So, well, obviously they did miss one penalty, but on the general terms, they beat Celtic pretty comfortably in the shootout, and you just never had really any confidence that Celtic were going to do the job when it got to that point. And it's just crazy to think that how far Celtic have went. In a few months back in February, there they go 180 minutes with Bayern Munich and are one kick of the ball away from going to extra time. And now in August, they are dropping out to a team that's never been in the Champions League or the Europa League. And as Brian said, their coefficient's way down there, and the value of their squad is incomparable to Celtic. And if we're being completely honest, that team will be lucky to pick up a point in the Champions League phase. And of course, it's a difficult trip to go. They welcome a difficult trip to go over to Kazakhstan and Almaty, and they welcome Real Madrid over there as well, which is what they deserve. I've seen the reaction of the players celebrating the draw, and that's what football's all about, a underdog story. And congratulations to them. But for Celtic, it started off a real embarrassing week, and ahead of a massive game, Brendan Rodgers has come under criticism from fans, saying he's not the right man for the job, not fit for purpose, as of the board of directors and Dermot Desmond. A lot of players have come under question as well for their performances. Kieran Tierney, a lot of people are saying he doesn't look like the same player. Cameron Carter-Vickers was uncharacteristically poor. Callum McGregor was really poor. And
Vickers has surprised me this season, because I think he was poor in this game, especially maybe his worst performance of the season so far, but he hasn't looked like he's got going at all. Last week, he nearly set up a halfway line screamer for Big Ed Nielsen, who was obviously out injured this game. I think that's something as well. Before we move on to Rangers, because I don't want to sort of dwell on one game too much for too long, but that's something as well that I think Kairat Almaty deserve massive credit for. Edmilson was injured. Sapayev was suspended. Glazer came off injured during the game. That's three of their
goalkeeper was injured as well.
yeah,
First
their
choice.
starting goalkeeper was injured as well, and that's so four of their first team that they lost before or during the game, and they still managed to get the result. So credit to that. But yeah, on Carter Vickers, he hasn't looked himself at all.
A point I want to make, lads, on the penalty shootout itself. Obviously, Adam Idah kicked things off for Celtic. Couldn't hit a barn door, that boy, but um, do you think maybe the fact Arnie Engels, let's be honest, the best penalty taker at the club, there's a reason he's nicknamed Pengels in Scottish football. Do you think it was a mistake maybe starting with Adam Idah on the penalties instead of Arnie Engels, who 9 times out of 10 probably would have set you off on the right foot in that shootout?
I don't know. I don't know
Possibly.
what I don't understand like penalty strategy and stuff like that. Because I remember when I was very young watching Real Madrid in a penalty shootout, and um, Cristiano Ronaldo was the final taker. For some reason, he did get to take his penalty and he won them the game. But yeah, I don't. What are you guys laughing at?
No,
Mate, I'm just
I think that's a Ronaldo decision to take the glory. Personally, I think that's why the big player sometimes goes last because they're the one that wants to take the pressure, the winning penalty on an occasion. And I know sometimes it doesn't get there. That's the risk you run. But yeah, Celtic. Ryan makes a really interesting point there. They definitely maybe could have put Engels first because I think you would say he is the best taker. And another point Celtic fans were making is why Dyson Maeda took one because although he took one in the League Cup final, the winning penalty, he's not the most convincing taker, you would say. And it looks like when Dyson Maeda takes a penalty, he's not even trying to score it in a weird way. And Benjamin Nigerin's took penalties before and he didn't take one. So, yeah, but Celtic, we're nitpicking at small details here. Celtic should have beat Kaira Almaty long before that. And obviously, they had a massive chance in the 90 minutes. Dyson Maeda through on goal and blazes it over the bar. And that was it. And after that, you just had no confidence that Celtic would go on to do the job. And I was just touching on the final players before I move on to the next game. Callum McGregor's come under immense criticism from the Celtic fans after the last two performances. What is it?
Captain Passback, they're calling him.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but yeah, I understand that nickname because he has been accused of being very negative in his play and not really forcing the issue like he usually does. And on the wings, Yang and Forrest, I think we understand that they shouldn't be starting in this situation for Celtic. Obviously, not their faults as players. They weren't good enough in the two legs. Ben Ross doesn't really have much other options, but he should still be good enough to get the job done. Daisy Maeda coming under massive criticism after the season he's just had. And I think two of the players who can maybe say they've done themselves proud, and the Celtic fans will often giving them criticism was I thought Liam Scales was probably the one of the best Celtic players across the two legs, and I think that says something as to
Yeah,
how many of the Celtic
you're
players
in trouble when
underperformed.
Liam Scales is your best player.
What was that?
You're in trouble when Liam Scales is your best player.
I think Liam Scales is a decent player, but yeah, he shouldn't be a standout across two legs. And Anthony Ralston, I thought done himself okay as well. Although Kobe Donovan, the young 18-year-old, came on. He made his debut at the weekend against Livingston. He comes on for an extra time. I thought he was really good and maybe even puts himself in with a shout of the massive game ahead on Sunday. But the fact is, Celtic, you needed fresh players in. Doesn't matter how good your squad is. The top managers they'll all say it. Pep Guardiola said it in the past that doesn't matter how strong your squad is, how many positions you need. You need new players in because it just becomes stale. That's not mentioning the fact that Celtic obviously let go of Kyogo and Nicholas Kuhn, and they haven't been replaced. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but I really can't see Brendan Rodgers staying after this season, Alex.
No, definitely not. I think he's. I think you mentioned it on maybe a Scottish football zone, Ethan. A lot of fans are starting to empathise and sympathise with maybe his thinking the previous time he did depart and understand his point of view. Because we're seeing it again. He doesn't get any backing. It seems, although maybe he's been given empty promises. We don't know anything, but it definitely seems that way. And yeah, I don't see him staying after his contract expires. He fair play to him. He has committed to the season. Although you can never you take everything with a pinch of salt when people come out and publicly kind of say those things because a very famous incident on the other side of the city was, do I look happy? Do I look settled? And then he was away like a week later or something like that. So, yeah, that. But he seems like he's intent on finishing out the season, even if it is to show the Celtic board that you should have given me more, or I can do this with or without you, or you know what I mean, just to prove a point.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And Ryan, your thoughts? I'm guessing the same as Alex, roughly.
Yeah, roughly the same as Alex, but a bit different in why he's going to stay. He will stay till the end of the season unless he gets sacked, which isn't going to happen, is it? Um, but if we're being frank here, the only reason he's going to stay till the end of the season,
I thought your name
and
was Ryan.
That's awful, Patter.
but back to the point, Alex has got awful battle. We all knew that. We spent a year in uni with him, but
Poor Ethan spent 3 years with me.
back to Brendan Rodgers. He's only staying till the end of the season because of what happened last time. Um, I think fans would actually probably be a bit more forgiving of him this time if he left midway through a season, given what's gone on the last couple of years at the club. But for me, given the reaction last time, I think that's the reason he stays till the end of the season. But to be honest with you, does he win a treble this season? I don't think so. And I would argue that he's only going to pick up one trophy this season, and that will be the Premiership title.
Yeah, quite possibly right there. And I think on his first spell, we can only speculate with these type of things, but I don't think he really liked the idea of the sort of club signings, your Hayato Inamuras, your Shin Yamadas, you would imagine. There's a lot of players that came in this window that seem like they've been sanctioned by people above Brendan Rodgers' pay grade rather than the manager himself. But I think it's maybe becoming a little bit too much for him to the point he's really getting unhappy with it. And maybe since dropping out of the Champions League and the £40 million that falls away with it, that the Celtic board have had that reality check they need, and the penny has dropped because they seem quite active as of now. But as Alex said, the Celtic fans will only see it as too little, too late. And I think that's all we've got on Celtic for just now. Although I think we'll talk about all the clubs in a greater issue later on. But we'll move on to Wednesday night's game, which didn't get any better as Rangers travelled to Bruges and were defeated on the night 6-0 by Club Bruges and 9-1 on aggregate, making it, I think, Rangers' worst defeat over a two-legged tie, and it just compiled this Scottish football misery, didn't it, Alex?
Yeah, I think I said on the Scottish Football Zone after we spoke about the game on Wednesday, and I came on to speak about it. I didn't watch the second half. I was just, yeah, you guys could laugh, you guys could smile, but I was just furious, and it was disastrous. You knew Rangers could be in for a long night after Bruges took the early lead, and you thought tie over, and then Max Aarons gets sent off in a stupid way. I know Ryan's got some thoughts on that, so I think we'll come to him in a little bit, but and then it was just open season for Club Bruges. My main issue is when you go down to 10 men and you're already losing, and there's probably no hope of winning the tie or even winning the game, but you need to be solid. You need to show a level of intensity, pull together as a team, level of harmony, which is apparently the new favourite word of the week. uh, and and try, and they didn't look like they were bothered. And Bruges strolled through them. They made it 5-0 going into the break. Got the sixth. I have seen it since. It was a nice finish from Christos Jolis. And yeah, it's really embarrassing. And Rangers' woes continue as well. Hamza Agaman's departed now. It looks like they could lose Nico Raskin. His dad had a rant in the newspapers, and now he's been left out of preparations for Sunday. I don't know if that's a punishment. There are now rumours flying around that he is personally in talks with Wolves over a potential move. So yeah, it's not looking good for Rangers. They're capitulating from the inside out, and it's all come from. This is a really harsh word, but I don't know to describe a person, but I don't know what other way. The infection that is Russell Martin. Uh, Everything seems to be stemming from him. And I'm sure as a guy, he's a nice guy, and I've got nothing against him personally, but the way it's gone since he's come in and the way he's handled himself in the media, and there's rumours that Tavernier and Nico Raskin have had a go at him, rumours that Raskin's liking the team and now he could possibly be away, and the players aren't buying into it. And he came out again and publicly attacked them after the game. He said Tavernier and a couple others are the only ones that are hurting enough, and going, we're not strong enough as a group and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't mind him saying that. But the thing is, he didn't follow it up with, and that's my responsibility as the manager to get us going and blah, blah, blah. He's just dogging the players in public. And yeah, I've covered a number of issues there, but yeah, I just wanted to sort of get that out of my system.
Yeah, and that's the problem that you can see from Rangers at the minute. There seems to be a division between Russell Martin and those players, and that's never going to end well on the pitches. And it did look like that on the pitch. It looked like the players aren't fighting for their manager, and obviously the rumours about Nicholas Raskin and James Tavernier being sort of told to find other clubs because of their reaction previous to that match when both of them didn't start. He made comments before the game saying maybe one or two of them will not be here by the end of the week, talking about the general squad. Then after the game, he comes out and openly says that Nicholas Raskin might not be a Rangers player come Monday night. Hamza Gaman's obviously already left. That problem dealt with pretty quickly, but there's already a divide between the players and the manager, and Russell Martin's already lost the dressing room. And it's a long way back for him, isn't it, Ryan?
Vegan Bull's not worked. Up in Scotland, the players don't like him. The supporters don't like him. I think a lot of the supporters didn't like him from day one. You've alienated your captain, who, let's be honest, is probably your best player and most consistent player at the club, and it has been for many years. He does have a lot of hatred within the Ibrox support, but at the end of the day, you can't argue. James Tavernier is probably the best Rangers player of the last 10 years. Uh, Keeps on throwing players under the bus. His style just, there is no style. It's just, pass, pass, pass. He keeps on talking about we wait for that pass where the ball is really on. It's like if you're gonna play like that, it's not gonna work. And it's actually quite surprising, and I made this point the other day to somebody. I don't understand how it's gone so badly wrong for Russell Martin in terms of he played at Rangers, albeit for I think 6 months. He should understand you can't play that way in Scotland. You can't go away to Motherwell and expect to just zip them off the park and get things all your own way. You're gonna have to be rough and ready. And it seems like Rangers just aren't prepared at this moment in time to be rough and ready. They concede an early goal, more calamitous defending from Rangers. We've seen a good highlight reel the last few weeks. Um, then Max Aarons, he's meant to be this big star from Bournemouth. When he was at Norwich, he was the next big thing. So was Todd Cantwell, to be fair. It seems a lot of similarities between players here. But Max Allen's has chucked it. He has absolutely chucked it. You're either don't believe in yourself that you can, with 35 yards still to go, you can get back and get the ball off him, or somebody's going to be able to cover him so you can get the ball, or you've chucked it. And he has chucked it. He's seen they've went 1-0 down early on. It's going to be a tough night for them. Tie's effectively over, and he's chucked it. He's chucked him. He's chucked the game. He's chucked his teammates under the bus. He's chucked his manager under the bus, which I think speaks more volumes when your actions are like that. And it's going to be very tough for Rangers. Egerman's gone. Raskin could be gone. You've got Joe Rothwell, who's blowing out his backside after 45 minutes of football every single week. And it's actually wild.
He's competing with Callum McGregor for the title of captain pass back, by the way. Oh,
It's you've actually look if you look at Russell Martin signings, a lot of them are like lower league English players from the lower leagues in England and that sort of level. Rangers' best player for me, arguably this season, has been Lyle Cameron. They've not tapped into the Scottish market enough. You've got
no,
Josh Mulligan.
I wouldn't agree with that. I think Rangers' best player this season has been quite clearly Diego Gassama, tied with Jack Butland.
I would say it's been Jack Butland after the performance the other night.
I'm a personally go Lyle Cameron. Yes, Gassama's got his goals and he's the top goal scorer, but what's he done in the league? What's he done in the league? He's done nothing. Lyle Cameron's
Cameron done in the league.
Lyle Cameron's been the constant threat for Rangers in the league. You saw him at Rangers, St Mirren away.
Like one game in the league or something, 1 or 2 games.
Aye, and every time he comes off the bench, he's a standout player.
I don't think so. I disagree with that.
Lyle Cameron's the best player in that Rangers squad at the moment. He's the only one who's actually fighting for a jersey.
Oh no, this is the prelude to him trying to convince me Brana prime Barcelona. We'll get on to
Well, I think the problem you can't really. It's difficult to start at Rangers. I think because you don't know where the problem is. You don't know what players are there for the long run, what players aren't. You don't know if Russell Martin's going to be in charge for much longer. There is so many questions at Rangers at the moment in the season. The start of the season has been so poor. 3 wins from Russell Martin's opening 10, under massive scrutiny from the support. Players don't look like they want to play for him. Ryan's quite rightly to say that Max Adams chucked it because that's what it looks like. He looks like he gave up on his teammates in the match when he dragged down Christos Jolis, who was obviously through on goal if he didn't. He doesn't try to get back after terrible defending for the first goal from Nasser Dejiga, and that just set the atmosphere for the match. And Rangers just never regrouped, never defended as a team, never gave 100%, and Club Brugge walked all over them for the first half. And if it wasn't for Jack Butland and Club Brugge taking the foot off the gas in the second half, it could have easily been 10-0. And that's not an overstatement. Jack Butland was excellent and possibly even man of the match across the two teams. He was that good. Club Brugge obviously had standouts, and I think we'll get on to them and when we're done with Rangers, because they offer a good example to where Celtic and Rangers lie at the moment. But
I need to talk about how good Club Brugge are again. Ugh.
yeah, we do, because I think they're a perfect example of what Celtic and Rangers should and aren't at the moment, and why Scottish football is on a downward spiral and rapidly so.
Yeah, probably. Rory Hamilton. I said this on the Scottish Football Zone as well, but he read out an interesting stat. All 4 of Club Brugge's backline came through their youth academy, and I think that is the example that should be being set. Because Rangers and Celtic over the past few years have been dreadful. I think, Ethan, you told me that also this season Club Brugge sold €80 million worth of talent. That's something that only Rangers and Celtic could only dream of. And then they buy smartly as well. I know you're a big fan of Carlos Forbes, €6 million, which is in the price range of Rangers and Celtic as well. So they buy smart, they use their youth academy, they sell big, and then they can use that to maybe spend a wee bit more on the rest of their squad, because I believe they did spend around 30, coming from you again, Ethan. But when you can sell €80 million worth of talent, you can certainly spend on bringing through the next €80 million worth of talent to sell the next season. So, yeah, definitely the way they're run is an example. And they should, Rangers and Celtic should take a leaf out their book, much like PSV, I think, as well, of the Netherlands. Ajax less or so in recent years, but they have a good history of that as well. So yeah, if Rangers and Celtic just look across the continent, they could take something from that, and obviously it'll take a bit of work. Maybe I know it's kind of been overshadowed by all the issues, but if Rangers sell Hamza Agaman, well, they have sold him. If Rangers sell Nicholas Raskin on top of that you could say that maybe, because that'll be what, like probably around 35 million brought in. That's me personally valuing Nico Raskin at around 20. But yeah, Ryan's laughing there. But
No, to be fair, mate, I'd agree he is worth 20 million.
Yeah, I don't think
He's a
Rangers will
Belgian
be 20
international.
million though, because he's Rangers need to sell him now. So there is no. I don't think there's any way they can get the appropriate value for the player. They'll need to sell him at a cheaper value, because
I
you need
don't
to
know
get
if we
rid of
need
him.
to sell him.
Well, I think it's going to be quite clear that either he needs to go or the manager needs to go.
Well, I don't know. We don't know what's happened. You could just be getting a wee punishment.
No,
Well, I
mate,
don't know.
he's
If
gone.
his dad's openly come out and condemned the manager, then you can only imagine that
Yeah, but
there isn't a good
Raskin
relationship.
can't be held accountable for the actions of his father.
I think he probably
What
can.
is that phrase? That the sins of the father are the sins of the son, or something?
Geez,
Or
so
something.
we've got Alex doing philosophy here. Do you know who Rangers should actually start on Sunday, right? And I seen this a couple of weeks ago and I laughed at it, right? That 16-year-old who just signed a contract at Rangers, I think his name was Connor something. That's who Rangers should start on Sunday. He is the Luke Littler of football. There's no way that boy's 16. It looks a bit
Oh,
a 30-year-old man.
I think
The
Robbie told
centre
me about.
defender.
I think Robbie
Aye.
told me about him. He's a tank, isn't he?
Mate, he's the Luke Littler of football. He looks about 30 years old, despite only being 16. He's obviously had a tough paper round. Must be hard being in that Rangers Youth Academy. Um, I don't see, I don't see, right, if Raskin stays, Martin has to go.
Yeah,
If Raskin goes and then a couple of weeks later Martin goes, Rangers are weaker because from what we're hearing in the transfer market, they're just linked with again a couple of jobbers from England. We're saying Kevin Thirlwell just go over failed signings he's already made for Everton, and he's just recycling his list and bringing him up the road to Rangers. Um, so I'd argue Rangers are in a very weak position right now, and we're in a position where next summer Rangers are in a rebuild again for the fourth summer in a row. They're in a rebuild. Um, it doesn't look good, but we should probably touch on Club Brugge now. We probably should be. We had enough of just sticking the boot into Alex. Um, Club Brugge are prime Barcelona. Absolutely brilliant football. They have a perfect exact. They Rangers should actually look at the way Club Brugge play. That's the way Russell Martin should be playing his team. The wingers are fast and
I think
dynamic.
there's two managers in the SPFL that play Russell Martin's sort of proposed style better than he does. Uh,
That's because Russell Martin's a jobber.
Playing Berthelaska,
who who was the manager, as you said there?
David Gray, and Jens Berthelaska.
All right.
Who do you think I
Yeah.
said?
No, I wasn't 100% sure on the first name you said. But yeah, I think anyone in the well, obviously not every team plays possession based football that no one plays the style that Russell Martin's trying to play at Rangers at the moment exactly, but possession based style, yeah, you're definitely right. Jens Berfalascu and David Gray are doing certainly a better job of it with less resources financially, and I think that's one of the big problems at Rangers this season or this summer has been the recruitment because not enough of those players have come in and made a real impact. Eddie Gassama has been positive for the most part, as we know. But apart from that, the signings have been passengers at points, and that's been
Ethan.
friendly.
Sorry, Ethan. The thing is, right, Ant-Man in his first game looked like an absolute world beater. He was taking everybody on, delivering balls into the box, and then 3 days of Russell Martin training, and he just suddenly doesn't look the same player anymore. And look, you could make the argument, right? Well, to be fair, Russell Martin's a worse manager than Paul Le Guen because Paul Le Guen managed to beat Motherwell in his first game away from home. But you could argue Rangers are still recovering from the summer of Michael Bill, where he bought in all these players, gave them excessive wages. You got Ben Davies, obviously he's out on loan. You've got Rabbi Matondo, he's probably still on the treatment table. Uh, Dessers, Danilo, who
Wait a minute here. Don't go after the big man. He's been great.
No, he's been great, no doubt about it, but in a Russ Martin system, he's never gonna work. To be honest, I don't think
I
any
don't
player's
know.
gonna work.
Russell Martin really likes him. He presses like a machine. He holds up the ball. He's a good player. And also when Russell Martin's been asked about him when he's been doing injuries and stuff, he's going, we've been desperate to get the big man involved, but he's just not been fit enough.
But
That
does
because
he
he's
does he like Serial Dessers because he's the only one that's seems to be given, or one of the few that seems to be given 100% at the moment?
I don't know. I don't know if you can call that into question because I'd imagine all of them at the start were given 100%. So I don't know. Cyril Dessers, he's the type of guy though that he could literally be getting managed by I don't know whoever. Think of like the worst manager possible. Um,
Ryan Giggs.
yeah, well, or like he could be getting managed by Alex Ferguson's Wayne, and he'd give 110%. He's just that character. He's a great example to any professional footballer, I think, with the type of attitude and the abuse he's received over the past couple of years from the rest of the league and his own support. He's just kept his head held high, and he's got a tremendous attitude. And he's one of those. I think he's one of those. Unless you're maybe apart from maybe throwing himself about a little bit, although he doesn't do that as much anymore, and he doesn't get fouls when he's actually hauled down. But unless you're maybe a Celtic supporter, I think he's one of the footballers you just can't hate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And Sergio Dessers has shown this season he does seem to have the right attitude to what Russell Martin's trying to do. Obviously, not doing it very well. And I think before we touch on Hibs and Aberdeen, we should probably look at the massive game on Sunday. Before we get on to some Glasgow Derby / Old Firm lineup predictions for the big game on Sunday, I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the difference between Club Brugge and Celtic and Rangers at the minute as a whole, because I think everyone can see Club Brugge are not as big a club in fan stature and merchandise sales and stadium size and TV revenue deals in Belgium. I don't imagine are too much better than in Scotland, but why are they so far ahead? Alex made the great point about the support in the youth system and the fact that the defence had 4 youth products, 3 of them being 20-year-old. But I think the other problem is possibly the fishbowl in Glasgow and in Scotland, because I've seen a lot of Celtic fans sort of showing admiration for the progress that Club Brugge had made in the time that Celtic have obviously went quite a bit backwards. But you got some Celtic fans saying, Oh, but Club Brugge didn't win the league though, because obviously Union Saint Gilloise under Tony Bloom, the Hearts investor and man who said he would conquer Scottish football with the Jambos, was at the heart of their first title win in Belgium in 90 years. But ultimately, despite the fact that Club Brugge didn't win the league last year, being in the Champions League 7 of the last 8 seasons, do you think Celtic or Rangers fans would rather be in their shoes or the Club Brugge fans' shoes, Alex?
Uh, Probably Club Rouge fans, I'd
Yeah,
say. Um, Obviously, domestic success is really important in Scotland, uh, you know, but I think maybe, right, so it's a really complex kind of issue you've raised there because obviously they would not be happy if they hadn't won the league, even less so if Rangers had won the league. But I think um, if they were still in the current landscape, I think they would still be winning Scottish Premierships, and I think they would rather be in the position in the Champions League that Club Brugge have been. The way they're run, their consistency over the last 7, 8 years, because I think a really damning stat. Um, Celtic have failed to qualify to the Champions League through the last 4 or 5 qualifying playoffs, I think, and and they haven't won a knockout game
I
since.
think the stat. I'm sorry to cut in, Alex. I think the stat might be 7 of the last 9. They've not managed to qualify because they qualified for two in Brendan Rodgers' first stint. But apart from that, it's been a long, long time. I think the last time before that was against Shakhtar Karagandhi, and that was in 2012, I believe, in the days of
Right.
James Forrest, kind of being a younger player and Georges Samaras playing for Celtic. So there's been so many failures in the Champions League, and you're quite right to say that.
Yeah, and they haven't won a knockout game since their run to the Europa League final.
Yeah,
Uh,
the UEFA Cup. Yeah,
UEFA Cup at the time, obviously. So, I think they would rather be in the Club Bruges fans' shoes. In terms of on a continental scale, obviously domestic success is crucial here in Scotland. But yeah, I'd probably say on for European football, they'd rather be uh, in their shoes.
right.
I don't want to be in Club Brugge's shoes, you know. They're in the Champions League consistently. They're they're actually, you know what? They're actually not too bad in the Champions League either, you know. They're not the whipping boys like Rangers were a few years ago when they managed to get through to the group stages.
You need to keep bringing that up, don't you?
Celtic, obviously, uh, they've been underwhelming Champions League as well. Bar last season, I don't think they've been anywhere near it. Not just in the Champions League, but Europe as a whole. I will give Rangers their credit. They have carried the coefficient for many years. It's just a bit funny that they've done all that work and then they can't win the league title to benefit from it. Um, so you'd rather be in Club Brugge's shoes. You're in the Champions League. You're doing well. You're getting a lot of money. And you made a point about the TV deal in Belgium. The TV deal in Belgium's actually a lot better than this one. Scott, it's a lot better than the one Scottish football has. I can tell you because I remember when the last Sky deal got announced, it came out just how we compared to other leagues in Belgium were above us in terms of how much money they make from it. Um, we can speak about merchandise and stuff, and nobody really cares about that. It's what's on the park people care about. Yes, they don't win the trophy every year in Belgium, but the League's one of the wackiest leagues in the world. I don't know if you boys are familiar with the format, but your
Oh,
points
it's
actually
weird. It's even weirder than ours.
your points get halved, and then like halfway during the season, your points are just halved. Don't know how it works, why it works like that, but it's the way the Belgium authorities run it. I'm not going to slag off the Belgium authorities. I quite like the Belgians. Nice chocolate too. Um, but you'd rather be in Club Brugge's shoes. You're in the Champions League. You're doing well. You've got a. You might not be the biggest name. You might not have the biggest stadium, but you're doing more than we do in Celtic in Europe. And the end of the day, I'd like it must be the most boring thing in the world to be a Celtic fan. Every single season, you just win, 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 win. At some point, that's got to be boring, and some people are going to say, no, we love winning, but it's got to be boring at some point. Rangers fans, well, they've only really won one big trophy in the last 10, 12 years, so they don't really know what winning is. But you'd rather be in the shoes of Club Brugge because Champions League success.
That's coming from a St Mirren fan, just had to get that in.
4 games unbeaten against Rangers,
Oh
mate.
wow, how's that looking in your trophy cabinet, mate? You
It's looking
enjoying
very.
that?
Mate, I've actually got a funny fact for you, right? I'll tell this story, right? God, if I want to get into St Mirren media stuff, I'm gubbed for telling this story, right? But when I was about 12 or 13, no, I think even younger actually. I think I was about 7 or 8. And I went on a tour of St Mirren Park and we went into the trophy room at St Mirren Park, right? See half of the trophies in there. Half of the trophies in St Mirren's trophy room had Rangers' name on it. So I don't know I don't know what's gone on there, but half the trophies in the trophy room at the time had Rangers' name on it.
That's quite strange. Yeah, and I think you spoke about just to go back on the Club Brugge, the last point I'm going to make before sort of last season, as we say, the Champions League success has been immense for them for a consistent time now. And for Celtic, they only got in pretty much as a byproduct of Rangers' European success and being automatically qualified to the Champions League for winning the Scottish Premiership. And but Celtic fans are still saying, "Well, they didn't win the league; we won the league." But I think that's just that in Scotland. You need to look outside of the walls of Scottish football. You need to really have ambition on that European stage, and I think that's what Celtic lack because realistically, there's no reason why they can't do what Club Brugge have done over the last few years. Certainly financially wise, I don't imagine Club Brugge are too far ahead. Obviously, we talk about the money they brought in, but when you're consistently in the Champions League and performing as they have been, as you said, Ryan, then they're going to generate a lot more money for their players. Even last season, Club Brugge got to Celtic Park and they impressed a lot of people. I think they caught a lot of people by surprise, but the match finished 1-1, and I think it was probably a fair result. Celtic could have easily won the match on the night, and now you look at it now, and you wouldn't fancy Celtic to do much better if they were to face Bruges across 2 legs. And I'm not saying they would capitulate like Rangers did in Belgium, but you would be a very optimistic Celtic fan to suggest that they would be able to knock them out across 2 legs, and that's how far backwards Celtic have went. And I think Rangers are the same because the recruitment hasn't been good enough. And when the domestic form last season maybe wasn't there, at least they had Europe, but they done the job in the last two rounds, but they fall at the final hurdle and embarrassingly so. And before we sort of well, I think it's a good opportunity for us. We don't usually sort of preview games, but the magnitude of Sunday's match between Celtic Rangers after the fallout of, or the match between Rangers and Celtic, sorry, after the fallout of both teams in the Champions League playoff round this week, I think there could be real shuffling in and amongst that squad, especially the Rangers starting 11 with how many of the players have underperformed, how many of the players look like Russell Martin can't trust. It's going to be really interesting to see what players are in that starting 11, Ryan.
Yeah, I'd argue both teams, to be honest. You don't know what's going to happen with their starting 11s. I think Kieran Tierney's been well below par since coming back for Celtic. He can't last 90 minutes. Ralston at right back, no matter how bad Rangers are playing, Ralston at right back, you're going to be targeting that side, to be honest. The centre backs haven't looked convincing. Scales, the outstanding performer between the two. Kasper Schmeichel, you know, for whatever reason, I don't want to be like rude or anything, but he's not in shape. He's like completely out of shape. No striker. The wingers, there's not much going on there. The bench is the weakest I've seen it in a long time. And then you go over to the other side of Glasgow, you've got a man who probably isn't going to have a job for much longer. This is his sort of, this is his opportunity to just roll the dice, to be honest. it's, an old firm should never be considered as a free hit, but as bad, like the way you're playing at the moment, it's a free hit for you. If you're going to keep your job after the last week you've just had, then you might as well go into the game with no face. So I think we'll see the same 11 really for Rangers. I think you'll have your Sam as your Ant-Man. They need more than one Marvel superhero to save them at the moment. Um, they obviously, the SFA let them do whatever they wanted, and after they postponed the game against St Mirren, they got a man sent off the week before that, so they then wanted to play that game. Nothing dodgy going on there. Um,
Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean nothing dodgy going on there? You're allowed to choose what game at your discretion.
aye, but you can't choose to postpone a game. Then you
You
get a man
can,
sent.
you
I don't
can
know.
though.
I don't
No,
think they ever. I don't think they ever did postpone it, Ryan. I think it was only sort of rumours that they were going to postpone it and then change their mind.
aye, because they got a man sent off and then decided,
Yeah,
oh,
but they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, they are allowed to do it. Yeah, he is right.
well,
You're just like buying into this SFA conspiracy nonsense that the supporters of every team that aren't Celtic and Rangers harp on about all season to make up for the fact that their teams are
Well,
usually worse.
Celtic and Rangers fans have
They do it
conspiracy
as well,
theories
but
with us.
all the rest of the division unite together as if there's an actual conspiracy against them. When it's actually when at the end of the day, Rangers and Celtic just have a bigger budget and usually have better players. This season, Rangers have been rubbish, so it's an exception this season. But usually, it's just they're better, and a lot of people moan about it to cope with the fact that their teams are usually absolutely garbage.
that's bold coming from a man who's not tasted victory against St Mirren in 4 games.
Yeah, I know, I know. I said Rangers are rubbish right now, but it's I hate that point. It's totally unfounded. It's just made up. And as journalists, we deal in facts here. We don't start conspiracy theories. Ryan, you should know better.
Aye, mate, let's face it, I'm not exactly the model professional journalist. Yeah, you don't.
You do good work, guys. He does great work. So make sure to go check all his stuff out. Pitch and Patter, what is it, SNN Sport as well, that he writes for. Go check it out because Ryan does exemplary work. He just lets his support of St Mirren get the better of him sometimes.
Well, when you've got a Gogic tattoo, mate, you've kind of got to make up for it. But no, but do you know the most interesting thing for the Rangers lineup on Sunday is it's not the only bit of the pitch that will be interesting to see who Russell Martin goes for. Because nobody really cares about the rest of the team. We know who's going to be in there, sort of. For me, right back is the biggest position for Rangers. If James Tavernier does not start that game on Sunday, he should walk out the door on Monday. But if
Yeah,
he doesn't start that game on Sunday, after what Max Aarons did over in Belgium, he should walk out of the door.
and,
Because
and and that's the thing because Russell Martin. It seems like obviously we're only speculating. We can't know everything, but it looks like James Tavernier isn't part of the long-term plans, although he had to obviously bring him on at right back during the week. And then Max Aarons has let him down massively during the week. So it's kind of a toss-up of two players that ideally he wouldn't be selecting from, but he obviously has to select one of them. And I think Ryan's right to say that is one of the biggest areas of the pitch that's a real interesting point. And I think just before we move on to Aberdeen and Hibs and their respective European competitions, and then react to the draw that was made this afternoon, I want to get your guys' predictions for the starting 11 for both Rangers and Celtic. Alex, have you got a prediction for both starting 11s, bearing in mind the new signings that are
Yeah,
in and could be coming in?
yeah. Do you want a score prediction as well, or
Yeah, you can have a score prediction. Yeah, of
right?
course.
Okay, I'll start with the home team, Rangers. I'll go Jack Butland, James Tavernier, Jade Magoma, John Shooter, Nasser Giga. Um, unfortunately, this is a predicted lineup and not what I would rather. So I think it will be Joe Rothwell, Lyle Cameron, Mohamed Diamande, and a front three of Diego Gassama, hopefully Cyril Dessers, and Oliver Antman. Um, and it's worth noting that if Bojan Miovski's in, I hope he'll play a part on Sunday as well. For Celtic, I think it will be Casper Schmeichel, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales, Kieran Tierney, Anthony Ralston, Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate. Oof. I'll say Arne Engels, and then I'll go with James Forrest on the right, Michel Ange Balikwisha off the left, and Dyson Maeda through the middle.
Benjamin Negan dropped then.
Oh, swap! I forgot about him. Swap Engels for Benjamin Egren. There,
Okay,
that
your
would be.
prediction for the match?
uh 3-2 to Rangers.
I think we'll be lucky. Ryan, what's your lineup predictions and your score prediction?
So my lineup prediction, first of all, for the home side, Rangers. I'm gonna go Jack Butland in goal. A back four of I think Martin, we've seen it, he will stick to his guns. I think we'll see Max Aarons start at right back. We're gonna see Nasir Deidre and John Suter at centre back, and we're gonna see Meg Homer at left back. In the middle, I think we're gonna see Joe Rothwell. He seems undroppable at the moment for some reason, despite being a solid 4 out of 10 most weeks. Lyle Cameron's going to be in there. He's been a standout whenever he starts. Um, I think Asgard's going to be in there. I think Thero Asgard's going to start.
I think he's interesting because for me, he's showing little moments, but he doesn't look up to speed, like match fit yet. You know what I mean?
Mate, he's
He's
one of these players who looks quite easy, Ozzy, but he missed. Mate, it doesn't matter if you're match fit or not, mate. You should put the ball in from 2 yards out.
yeah, yeah. I said that after that game.
I mean, Shamal George, unbelievable, son. That is save of the season already.
No, it's
Um,
not. Jerome Pryor save. There was a better save that weekend. Jerome Pryor's.
Mate, I could save it on a Sunday league pitch, and I have done.
My God,
Uh,
I hate this.
On
It was a great save from Shamal George. He's doing his job at the end of the day. Jerome Pryor should never have been able to save that from that close, from that like power and close range. That was a ridiculous save.
I would argue both are just doing their jobs, to be fair. Um, got a clean sheet bonus. What are you getting paid for? I don't understand clean sheet bonuses, but that's a whole lot of a conversation. But on the wings, it's going to be Gassama and Marvel's very own Ant-Man. And up top, I do think if he is fit, we will see Cyril Dessers start up top. I do think
Hmm.
we'll see Dessers. Obviously, if Miovski signs, he will play a part on Sunday. Um, no doubt about that. Moving on to the green side of Glasgow, the green and white hoops, as they're called. Um, Let me have a wee look at their team. Let me see who I think. You know what? I'm going to go bold. I'm going to go very bold. Sinisalo is going to be in goal.
That's
What?
not going to happen.
That is not going to happen.
I just don't think Kasper Schmeichel's cut it, to be honest with you. Um, we're going to see Ralston at right back, Carter Vickers and Liam Scales, because that's the only two centre backs they have. But saying that, I wouldn't be surprised to see Dane Murray in that team. He's impressed so far, but I don't think he'll be thrown into an old from that early. I think we're going to see Kieran Tierney be dropped, and we're going to see the first start for.
Marcelo
Uh,
Sanazzi.
no, we're going to see the first start for Simpson Puzey. Trying to get his name right there.
What, a left back?
Aye. Mate, I'm telling you, I think
See,
Celtic.
He's a
see if Simpson Pusey was in there, he would be at centre back and Liam Scales would be at left back.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, mate. I'm telling you, mate. This is gonna
Samson
happen.
Tuesday will not play. He's fifth choice centre back. He's not going to play.
Fifth?
In the midfield,
Yeah.
we're going to go into Callum McGregor. He's obviously going to start, even though I think he's done at top level football. Um,
Jeez Louise,
Sure.
man.
we're going to see Rio Hitate play as always. Um, and in the midfield, we are going to see Arnie Engels.
Okay.
Up top, we're going to see Dyson Maida through the middle. Benjamin Nigren, he's going to be put out on the left wing for this one. I think Engels shows good.
You're just playing FIFA career mode, mate. You're just sticking anyone wherever you want them.
Mate, Nigren played on the wing during pre-season at points. He can play there.
Yeah, on the right wing.
He can play. I think he can play on the left as well. But I think that if he's going to play on the wing, then he's going to play on the right. Yes, Alex is right.
And then we're going to see James Forrest play because
Right.
Yang's going to be away.
Yeah,
Um,
well, he is. He like Adamida. Adamida linked with a £7 million move to Swansea City. That one looks to be a done deal. And Yang, as you said, could be going down
Oh, I
to
actually
Birmingham
saw a
City.
report during this
Birmingham.
podcast. Sorry that Brendan Rodgers has blocked Adamida's move until they find a replacement.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
uh,
And yeah, prediction, Ryan.
well, I've said this on about four different avenues, right? It's a team who can't defend against a team who can't score. So my score prediction for this weekend is I've got two for you, right? It's either going to be a 0-0 draw or it's going to be a 5 each game.
Gee.
There's
I don't think it's going to be five each.
no in between 0-0 or
That might
5-5.
be the worst like 5 minutes I've ever heard for you in your life. So uh,
Right. I'm gonna. I think that was pretty good, Ryan. Maybe a few possessions, a wee bit shaky, but I hope for a 5-5 game. I'll take that. I'll give my predicted lineups now. Before we move on to the other teams in Europe. So I think it'll be Jack Butland in goals, back four, Jane McGoma, John Suter, Nasser Dajiga, and I think James Tavernier will get the nod after Max Aaron's letting down his manager in the week. I think the midfield trio will have Lyle Cameron, Mohamed Diamande, and my really interesting selection in midfield, Connor Barron. I think he'll get the shout with how poor Joe Rothwell's been in recent weeks. And I know Connor Barron's not.
Have you been smoking the pipe, son? Connor
Connor Barron,
Barron.
right, hear me out. Joe Rothwell has been really poor. He's been really terrible since coming in. Nicholas Raskin's obviously not a part of the training programme, so it doesn't look like he's going to play. And I think Connor Barron's the next one to come in. I think he played okay the other night when he came on in a tough environment. And yeah, I think he's performed well against Celtic in the past. So yeah, I think he maybe comes in.
Connor Barron looks like he's won a competition to play at Rangers. He's on. It might be up there with one of the worst signings Rangers have
no,
made.
no, 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 no. I'm not having that.
You,
Are you sure you've not been smoking something? You've just for the last 5 minutes you've just come out with absolute waffle, mate. You're just waffling. Connor Barron is good.
you cannot sit here and say Connor Barron's a
He
good
is
footballer.
good.
Is he Rangers level good?
Yeah.
Are we agreeing with that, Ethan?
Well, I'm not sure if he's Rangers level good, okay, but I think he's a decent player that in this squad should get the chance because the other players aren't performing. That's my personal opinion. I'll go into the front three. Jedi Gasama, a lock in the starting 11. Cyril Dessers, if he's fit, I think he's a lock in the starting 11. He offers that threat that none of the other Rangers strikers do, and someone who I had a strong opinion that should have started the other night, and I think should start. Whether he does or not is another question. But Finlay Curtis, I think, should
I think
start on the wing.
he should start as well, but he won't.
Yeah, quite
I,
possibly.
I think Connor Barron probably should be in over Joe Rothwell, but he won't.
Yeah.
I actually think most Rangers fans probably don't want Finlay Curtis to play a part because he's single-handedly keeping Russell Martin in a job at the moment. So, so some would argue they don't Finlay Curtis shouldn't play a part because if he keeps on scoring goals to get points that keep Russell Martin in a job, it ain't exactly a great thing. But Finlay Curtis, for me, he is going to be one of Scotland's best players for the next 10 years. That's my bold
Wow,
prediction.
Big shout.
big call.
Right, before I get my prediction, I'll go into the Celtic 11. I think it will be Casper Schmeichel on goals. I think we could very easily see an unchanged back four. Celtic have only conceded one goal this season. Defensively,
You
they have
sure
been
he's
pretty
not just
solid.
going to throw Shin Yamada in at centre back for laughs?
I don't think so. I think it'll be Kieran
Shin
Tierney, Liam
Yamada at
Scales.
right back. We'll have Kieran Tierney on the left wing. Who else? Dane Murray centre forward. Ryan, what do you make of that?
Class team, mate. That's winning the title, mate.
Right, Kieran Tierney at left back, Liam Scales left centre back. I think it will be Cameron Carter-Vickers at right centre back, although Dane Murray definitely has a shout. At right back, I think it will be Anthony Ralston, but again, Colby Donovan certainly has a shout. Midfield three, I think it'll be McGregor and Hatate will keep their places. I think Engels will come into that midfield though, and Benjamin Nigren will be pushed out wide onto that right hand side. I think Mikael Ange we shall make his debut at left wing, and Daisa Maeda will start up top. And I think for the score, a very unpredictable game that could easily go either way. I'm going to say a 1-all draw. I'm going to sit on the fence and continue Rangers' trend of
Michael,
winning draws.
Michael's favourite place.
Alex, mate, have you noticed this, by the way? Since Ethan's done, branched out from the dugout and done a few more, podcasts in other places and all of that, he's becoming a lot more neutral here, right? We all know he is the biggest Hoops fan in our class and biggest Hoops fan that we know. But it seems since he's got this tiny bit of a platform elsewhere, he's sort of starting to be a bit more, on the fence, not too much
Oh no,
pro Celtic.
we are aspiring journalists at the end of the day.
No,
So we
I'm open. Sorry to cut you off, Alex. I thought I'd just defend myself. I think no, I don't make it any secret who I support, but I'm just trying to look at it from a neutral perspective because that's what the viewers will want to see, and I
yeah,
think that's the way I see it. I don't. I'm not saying that to hide who I support. I genuinely think that it'll be a draw. I don't think Celtic have enough attacking quality to go to Ibrox and win, regardless of how poor Rangers are playing. The underdog in this game always seems to turn up. You think back to even last season when Rangers came in with a terrible number of injuries and they beat Celtic 3-0 when Celtic were in good form. You just don't know what's going to happen in these games. They're really hard to call, and that's why I'm sitting on the fence. I probably should pick a team, but yeah, I could really see it going either way. So I'm going with a one each draw.
Mate, I'll sit in the media. See, when I'm in media boxes, mate, I'm sitting there supporting the team. I'm shouting at the referee, you're a word I'm not going to say because we don't swear on the dugout.
Yeah, you're
Professional.
right.
right, and that's why you'll get kicked out of every media box you go into.
Right.
So,
Anyway, too much rambling here. I'm going to get us on to the next couple of European games because if the Hibs and Aberdeen, if there's any Hibs or Aberdeen fans watching, they'll be wondering when we're finally going to get on to their teams, and we'll start in the Europa League qualifying playoff round. Aberdeen's only qualifying round, obviously dropping in there against FCSB, champions of Romania, who have started the domestic season terribly, and but despite that, they progress on the night, a 3-0 win in Bucharest at home, 5-2 on aggregate, and they knock Aberdeen out, although it feels very, very unfair on Aberdeen, doesn't it, Alex?
Yeah, definitely, because I think they were the better side up until Alexander Jensen. For me, I'm going to come out and say it was unjustly sent off. I don't even think you can give handball for that, really. Um, it's it's mental. It's absolutely mental. He gets a second yellow and is sent off. Obviously, Olaru dispatches the penalty, and then from there on in, it's a very tough task for Aberdeen. And yeah, it does seem very unfair on them, and they've been done by a poor refereeing decision there. I think for most when we analyse teams and stuff like that, where in the Scottish vein, we're maybe hypercritical of our own sides and like to nitpick and say how bad Scottish football is and all that stuff. But I think Aberdeen were unfairly penalised there, and it cost them the tie.
Yeah, exactly that, and it was a terrible decision because there's nothing Jensen can do. The winger kind of breaks through, maybe poor defending from Aberdeen. They switch off a little bit, and he gets through, and he's sort of falling over, and he kicks the ball up to Jensen's hand, and there's just nothing he can do about it. It's ball to hand, and I know he's making his body bigger, but there's absolutely nothing he can do to get his hand out the way. And even if the referees are going to give the penalty, there is no reason to give him a second yellow card and send him off and ruin the contest. And yeah, it wasn't a great game. I'm not saying that it was a brilliant spectacle that they ruined, but it was an even, well-poised game that Aberdeen were well in. They had the biggest chance of the first half. Esther Sockler should have probably burst the net after 2 minutes, but he could only find the gloves of the goalkeeper. Darius Alaru was the standout across the two legs. He came off the bench and got the second goal at Battered with one of his first touches, the captain. Then he scores the penalty, he sets up the second goal in the night, and then finishes it off with the help of that Jack Milne deflection, the third. And it was becoming very reminiscent to the game that went the night before in Bruges, where it looked like, although FCSB, I wasn't really impressed with them across the two legs. They looked, because they had the man advantage and they were sort of in their flow, that they could score however many they wanted. By then, Jimmy Tulane realised that the tie was gone and he wanted to protect the dignity of his players, and they done that. They seen out the 3-0 defeat. But yeah, it just feels like a story of what could have been, Ryan, when they're well in the game at 2 each in aggregate, nothing each in the night, and a terrible decision like that goes against them.
No, there's no doubt they've been done by VAR there. Well, I think it was VAR or the referee, one of the two. But they've been done. It's a terrible decision. I thought Willie Collum was bad, but watching these European refs the last few days, they're even worse. But for me, Aberdeen got just what they deserved, to be honest. They had their chance last week at Pittodrie, in front of a sold out Pittodrie to go do a
Why are
job.
you so cynical?
They went 2-0 down to this team.
Why do you hate everything?
Mate, they went 2-0 down at home last week to FCB, and yes, they clawed it back. But at the end of the day, they went over to they're from Romania, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They've went over to Romania. You could say a hostile environment. They should be going there with a lead. They've fumbled the first tie and had to get 2 goals back, so they already set them off on a footing. FCSB were there to be got at. Aberdeen tried, couldn't score, got a man sent off, and instead of going for the game, they kind of just sat back and just waited for something to happen. Not impressed with the opposition they played, but I'm not impressed with Aberdeen either. Yes,
But
better team in the first half, but over the two legs, I've not been impressed with either team.
yeah, that's a fair point to make. But I think Aberdeen were the better team in that first half, I would say. And although FCSB came into it towards the end of that first half, the decision it just takes the game at the tie away from them, because it is so difficult to go over there and get a result away from home in Europe as it is, never mind being a man down and the double jeopardy of the penalty as well. And I think Aberdeen came out and tried to get back into the game in the second half, but they just were too open and obviously conceded those two relatively quick goals in the first 50 minutes of the second half, which it finishes the tie completely. But yeah, I think it's up there to say.
Off with one of the worst goalkeeping performances in European football.
It wasn't that, but I should have done better with the second goal. I'll agree with you.
That wasn't. Nah, I don't think that was his fault.
I think he should do a little bit
The
better.
deflection.
No, that's the third goal, the strike from outside the box.
That was a deflection.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't think it was. Was it? The Adrian Soot goal?
I'm fairly certain that was a deflection, because my dad said that was the same. My dad said the same thing, I'm sure, when they scored.
Oh, right, okay. Well, possibly I'm giving Dean Tarnito a hard time. Definitely a deflection with the third goal. and but ultimately it doesn't really matter. But yeah, really disappointing, and Aberdeen fans will feel frustrated because the chance at a massive lottery for them getting into the Europa League and a massive financial application. We talk about Celtic and Rangers missing out on the Champions League money, but it's a similar sort of scale for Aberdeen missing out on the Europa League finances, and the kind of opportunity was taken away from them, unfortunately. But and I looked at some stats after the game. FCSB only created 0.58 non-penalty expected goals, which is pretty low. Aberdeen created 1.01, and that was just in the first half. They didn't really create much in the second half as they were on the back foot, as you would assume if you watched the game on BBC Scotland. But yeah, it just compiled a disappointing week for the Scottish clubs, didn't it, Alex?
Yeah, it did, and aye, really, really disappointing, really poor. Sorry, I was just trying to look and see if I wasn't making stuff up. So I was a wee bit out of what you were saying there, but for
I
that,
was just saying how it compiled a sort of disappointing week, and although like Hibs will get on to, it wasn't embarrassing from those two teams as it was for Celtic and Rangers. It's still disappointing that ultimately we don't have any success,
oh, sorry, I was getting that was the third one.
and
The mental thing is Dundee United, who are out of the competition, completely have contributed more coefficient points than every single other team competing. I think,
Even sorry,
no,
even
I think
even
no, I think Hibs have contributed more now, and
but
Rangers have contributed more.
I think Hibs maybe contributed more after yesterday. Um,
even
because Derby class is a win, but
sorry, boys, even still, I think you guys are being a bit harsh on Dimitar Mitov there.
I don't know. I think it's down as
That's a difficult shot to judge. If any of you
that's
guys,
it does move. You're right, but I just
any of you guys ever played in goals before?
no, I
yes, mate,
haven't.
I was a goalie for 6 years.
Oh well, then Ryan,
I saved that,
no, you wouldn't. You're like 5'8".
Right,
and I
anyway, it
saved
doesn't
that, mate.
matter. We're nitpicking here. Dimitar Mitov maybe could have done better. Maybe I'm being very harsh on the goalkeeper. It doesn't really matter. Aberdeen crash out of Europa League, but they do have Conference League to fall back on, and we'll get on to the very tricky draw that they were handed after we touch on Hibs, who were obviously in that Conference League playoff match. They done, I think, very well to get to that stage. They performed admirably. I can't say the word.
Admirably.
Yes, that's the one. Against FC Midtjylland in the Europa League second round. Then they drop out of the heartbreak of that late goal, get through against Partizan Belgrade eventually, and then no one really gave them a fighting chance heading over to Warsaw. But after going 1-0 down on the night, they score 3 goals in quick succession in the second half, and it looks like we're going to have a fairy tale end to an awful week for Scottish football, Ryan.
Hibs away, I like it, You know what, right? I'm gonna say this, right? I'll take the Mickey out of Hibs, right? Because it's funny. It's funny that they managed to Hibs it yet again. But honestly, I feel like they deserved to get into the group stages, the league phase, sorry, of the competition. They've been absolutely done with the draw, let's be honest. They've been absolutely done with the draw the whole way through to have Midtjylland, Partizan Belgrade and Legia Warsaw back to back to back isn't easy for anybody. Great performance over in Poland. It looked like it was going to be for them. It looks like they were heading through, and then in true Hibs fashion, the last kick of the game, they lose a goal when it goes to extra time, and by that point, I think David Gray's players are spent. I think this, after they obviously went 1-0 down on the night, the sort of impetus was on them. They had to go out. They put a lot into it. They scored 3 goals, and I think after the third, they were done. Um, it's a shame for Hibs. It is. They deserve to be in the league phase given the ties they've got, but you've you've got to defend your box better in the 90th minute of a game. No matter if the team are hammer throwing bodies forward looking for the goal, you've got to defend better. You've got to be more resolute, even if it means sticking everybody in the box. and just absolutely thundering it up the park. You've got to do better. Um, but Admiral, that word can get to. But Hibs have done themselves proud in Europe over the course of the time they've been in there. Obviously, not in Europe anymore, which I think actually might benefit them league-wise, in terms of they're not going to be going Thursday, Sunday. But disappointing night, disappointing for the coefficient again. I don't know if that gets classed as a win because it was in
Yeah, I
90
think it
minutes.
does because they won in the 90 minutes. Yeah, I think you're right.
So it's the only good thing for the coefficient this week. But Hibs have Hibsed it again. They did it against Belgrade. They managed to get through that one. They did it against Midtjylland and Legia Warsaw. They've Hibsed it again. Um, Disappointing, but you know what? I'm gonna say it right now. Hibs are finishing second in the league because that team is absolutely unbelievable. The way David Gray's got them playing, um, the way they're all together. You've got Mulligan who's came in brilliant. Jamie McGrath, brilliant. Bashiri, he's been a bit of a bomb scare at times, to be fair. He got a goal last night. Kieran Bowie, he scores goals from about 200 yards out. Um, I think Hibs are in for a very positive season, and I actually think being out of Europe might actually benefit them in the long run. Um, but they've Hibsed it.
Yeah, I think despite Hibs in it, possibly as you said, and the disappointment of going out, they can take a lot of confidence into the rest of the season and European campaigns to come with how they performed. And I think even if they had got into the Conference League phase, they would have had a really good shot of competing in there with some of the opposition they went up against. You would expect to be in league phase football season on season. And yeah, they performed well across the tournament and the fans I think, clapped them off the pitch and gave them a brilliant reception because they have gave the fans a brilliant run across the three qualifying rounds. And despite not progressing to the league phase, they'll be really proud of what they've done. And so will David Gray, and they can take a lot of confidence into the league season. Maybe not finish second. I think that is getting a little bit too excited
Mm-hmm.
personally. But they can take confidence into the rest of the League Cup campaign and then the Scottish Cup campaign when it begins.
Yeah,
Alex?
yeah, definitely. I think everything you guys have said, they can be proud of, the displays over the past few weeks. I think almost every single draw that Hibs have been given, we've said that that it's maybe a bit too much for them, and they've went toe to toe with every single side. And all credit to them, all credit to David Gray, all credit to the supporters for following them around and making it a party atmosphere. And they can definitely take positives as much as it will be still be raw and they'll be hurting. Um, they need to bounce back quickly into the league season, and I'm sure that excuse me, I'm sure that they will. I think Ryan is perhaps getting a little bit ahead of himself there, saying second, because in my heart, in my heart of hearts, I have to believe Rangers will still be towards the top of the league. But yeah, I think they are in for a good season, and with the way they've started in comparison to Rangers and Celtic, who I think will eventually grow into the season, I I, I think a League Cup is maybe a major possibility for Hibs, because obviously they've got Rangers at Ibrox, and right now I'm not confident Rangers can contain this Hibs attack, and yeah, and I would back them to give Celtic a hell of a game as well. So I definitely positives coming for Hibs this season.
Yeah, I'll just touch on the goals really quickly before we move on to the reaction to the draw, which happened this afternoon, as I've mentioned. Rocky Bashiri opens the scoring for Hibs on the night, get equalising on in Warsaw and bringing them within one in the tie. Really nice header from him. That's 3 goals already for the central defender Nicky Cadden with the assist from the corner. And then on the hour mark, Hibs took the lead on the night and drew level and aggregate. It was a ball into the box brought down by Miguel Chaiwa, the summer signing from Young Boys and the substitute who came on. Kieran Bowie kind of bullies the defender out the way without touching the ball, and Martin Boyle comes in and finishes well for his third goal of the season, all coming in Europe, and now he becomes Hibs' all-time top goal scorer in European competition with 9 goals, which is a remarkable achievement for him. Of course, he's already entered the 100 club this season, so it's still at his age, he's still proven that he's got a lot to offer for David Gray and Leaf. And then straight after that, in the 61st minute, Hibs find another one remarkably to go ahead. Chaiwa opens his account for the club this time. He just doesn't give up on it. He rides through a few challenges and then just smashes it in past Casper Tobias. A really nice finish. And it looked at that point like it was too good to be true that Hibs were going to go through, but obviously half an hour was a long time to survive in front of that hostile atmosphere in Poland. And then it looked like it was going to take a downward spiral already when we nearly see one of the most ridiculous red cards of all time when Junior Hoylett was shown a red card. Luckily, VAR intervened and downgraded it to yellow.
Yeah, I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, Ethan, but see if the referee gives a red card and then he reviews it, you can't just take away the card completely.
I think he possibly can.
Can he? Because that should.
I'm not too sure.
Because I doubt that was. I don't know if I'm, thinking. I don't know if I'm being a bit too generous to Junior Hoylett, but I don't think that was even. Well, maybe a foul a little bit, but it wasn't even a yellow in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I'm not 100% sure in the rules, so I'm not going to say whether you can automatically revoke a red completely. I know you can revoke a red completely, but I don't know if it's in a sort of different scenario to a challenge. And yeah, the referee could get away with giving a yellow card for that. I don't think it would be a sort of very worthy yellow card, but he could certainly get away with that. But the red was ridiculous. And then Martin Boyle nearly scored a goal better than Kieran Bowie's when he volleyed it from just inside the leg of half, and it beat the keeper and comes crashing off the bar, and that probably wouldn't have finished the tie at that stage. But obviously it didn't. Legia get the goal right at the death and injury time in the 90 minutes, and for the third consecutive tie, Hibs concede a late goal, and then they go on to win it in extra time. Unfortunately, Mileta Rajovic got the goal, assisted by Jan Ziolkowski, the fullback, who was set to join Roma for €6.5 million. It was actually strange that he was playing the match because he was set to head out to Rome to complete that move the day after the match. So today, as we're recording this, and the 20-year-old actually set up the goal. Then he took the armband in his final match for the club, got a second yellow and got sent off. So his final act for his boyhood club was to receive a red card, and he would have been worrying going into the final 5 minutes because Hibs looked like they had a chance to possibly create an equaliser and force penalties. Kieran Bowie had a really good header saved brilliantly by the goalkeeper, and I heard that Michael Stewart was wanting a penalty on the radio for the challenge on Rocky Bashiri right at the death, but nothing was given, and the Hibs drop out, unfortunately. But as we've touched on, they can certainly be proud of the performance across the course of the 6 matches, and it gives them confidence going into the season, because I think if you were to look at the performance levels of all the clubs in Scotland, I think across their opening matches, their supporters might be the most happy of any. Would that maybe be fair to say? I know Motherwell fans are really happy with how they've started the season despite not maybe getting all the results, but they'll be really happy at the moment.
Yeah, I'd say they are really pleased. It's a really feel good vibe around Hibs this season.
Absolutely. There's a feel good factor there. Apart from maybe that 2 weeks draw against Kilmarnock where they've chucked away a 2-goal lead. Hibs did it again. But to be fair, there's no safe in that shot from Ben Brannan, is there? But there's a feel good factor, and everyone's going to sit and laugh and say when I say they're going to finish second. But if you look at the way Rangers are playing right now, you could say Hibs are in second place this season. Feel good factor. Your point on Michael Stewart wanting a penalty. anything Michael Stewart says, we know not to believe. Um, so there is that. But they're unlucky, but you've got to defend better. I hate to be a cynical, but you've got to defend better when you're heading through to a league phase for I think the first time in their history.
Yeah,
You've got to defend better in the 95th minute.
aye. Ethan, I've got the fixtures up for Celtic if you want to move on to the
Yeah,
draw.
I was just gonna move on to that there. If you want to start, if you want to list them off, I've got a few funny narratives for both Celtic and Rangers draws that I noticed across the tie. But if you want to run through them, then go ahead.
Okay, so for Celtic in the UEFA Europa League, these are their fixtures at home. They will face AS Roma. They will also host Braga, Sturm Graz, and FC Utrecht. On their travels, they will go to Rotterdam, Belgrade for Feyenoord and Red Star. They will face Midtjylland in Denmark, and they will go to Italy to take on Lewis Ferguson's Bologna. So there are some interesting ties there, some difficult ties. Those are Celtic's fixtures. And if you guys want to talk amongst yourselves, I'll pull up Rangers.
Yeah, I was just going to go through the sort of narratives I've noted down here that I really think a difficult draw for Celtic, but one they can expect is certainly if they get the players in and get the squad functioning properly, they can tackle well and certainly look to at least make the playoffs or follow suit as Rangers done last season and maybe even have aspirations of that top eight. Four of the eight teams that Celtic play were actually in the Champions League along with Celtic last season. They meet Gianpiero Gasperini again for the second year running, as he is the Roma manager now, and it's his time to take the trip to Glasgow. Obviously, Celtic went to Atalanta and got a point against his side last season. Celtic go back to Rotterdam, as Alex mentioned, to face Feyenoord as they did in the UCL a few seasons ago. Gustav Lagerbielke will play at Celtic Park again after the Swede left for Braga this summer. And there'll be a hostile away trip to Belgrade when they face Red Star Belgrade or Crvena Zvezda,
Did
as
I
they are.
did I say Red Star?
Yeah, you said Red Star.
Just double checking. I didn't actually accidentally say Partizan.
No, you definitely said Red Star, mate. You definitely
Right,
said Red
cool.
Star. A home match against Sturm Graz, who failed at the final hurdle to get into the Champions League this season when they were thrashed by one of Europe's most exciting clubs, Bodo Glimt, in the playoff round. Celtic can avenge the Highbies against FC Midtjylland, the last team before Kairat Almaty to knock them out of Champions League qualifying. Vasilius Barkas, along with Gustav Lagerbielke, obviously he comes back with Braga. Vasilius Barkas will come back with Utrecht FC. And then, as Alex mentioned, Lewis Ferguson will welcome his dad Derek and his uncle Barry's favourite team to Italy.
We have Vasilius Barkas returning to his old hunting ground where he was the best shot stopper Celtic have had in the last 20 years. I believe that also marks a return to Scotland for Mr. Sam Lammers. I believe he went to
No, he's not at Braga.
no
20.
Utrecht.
He's
Oh,
not at Utrecht.
okay, well Sam Lammers doesn't return. That's a bit disappointing. It'd have been great to see him back. One of Scottish football's brilliant signings.
It was a couple of seasons ago he was at Utrecht. You aren't mistaken. He did play for them, but he's at FC20 now and still in the Eredivisie, where he seems to only be able to produce his best football there. Obviously, as we've seen at Rangers.
Or
Mm.
Robin Proper FC. But no, I think it's man. I think you know what? There's some tough ties in there for Celtic, no doubt about it. But I see no reason why they don't get top eight. I think they're good enough to do it if they can if they can get a winger.
I
You
think
know,
I think if Rangers and Celtic both get themselves together, they should both not have any issues breaking into the top eight with their fixtures.
Yeah, in the
And
Europa League. Sorry to cut you off there, Alex. In the Europa League last season, I think four home wins and two away draws was good enough to crack that top eight. I know it was a little bit more in the Champions League, but to win your home games and to draw a couple of your away games, it's not a massive ask, especially in the Europa League where it's a completely different level from the Champions League. Of course, there's still difficult ties in there, but you avoid any of the elite glamour ties against your Real Madrids and etc., where you're just complete underdogs.
I
Yeah,
mean, to be fair though, you're looking at the top eight. I mean, Tottenham won the Europa League last season, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I don't see any reason if Rangers and Celtic can't get their act together. They could be looking at a
That's a big
crack.
if, though. That's the problem. That's a massive if at this point
But
massive.
because
I don't see any reason why Rangers and Celtic shouldn't have aspirations of reaching that final and
Oh,
having
I
an
see
and have
plenty of reasons why.
and we can have an all British final against Aston Villa.
Yeah. Okay. I've got Rangers fixtures now. Roma and Braga will be, especially Braga, after their many trips to Ibrox over the years, will be looking for second homes in Glasgow as they both travel to Ibrox to take on Rangers. Rangers also host Ludogorets and their second Belgian side this season, Genk. And then they go away to FC Porto, Ferencvaros, Sturm Graz, another side that Celtic are also playing in their fixtures. And Ryan's favourite team, SK Bran, who I believe he's going to try and convince me that Bran are the best side to grace football ever.
yeah, he might possibly do. Sorry, I'm just going to jump in before Ryan gives his thoughts on Bran. It's strange because Rangers and Celtic both welcome Roma and Rangers' familiar foes, as Alex said, Braga to Glasgow. So both teams will be making to the trip twice. They travel to familiar Europa League opponents, FC Porto, and former Celtic striker Robbie Keane's Ferencvaros will also welcome the Ibrox side. Celtic went to Hungary and played them in the Europa League. I think the last time Celtic were in the Europa League under Ange Postecoglou. Rangers also host Ludogorets and KRC Genk, as Alex said. And yeah, travelling to Sturm Graz and Bran, who I think Ryan has a lot to say about.
Well, for me, obviously, St Mum played Bran in the Conference League last year. Bran were in Champions League qualifiers. They got knocked out of that by Salzburg, I believe. Honestly, I've said this since we played them. One of the best passing teams in football. The speed they move the ball at, the intensity they play at. And you know what? Some would say I'm bigging them up too much because they were lucky to get a 3-1 victory over against us over in Bergen. They were. We should have beat them that night. But for me, I'm looking at the way Rangers are playing right now. If Rangers are playing that way, come their visit to Norway, greatest country on earth, I genuinely believe Rangers could be in for a 4 or 5-0 hammering. Because SK Brann are unbelievable passes of the ball. It takes me back to Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. They pepper that ball about. And the one thing they have that Rangers don't have, and especially Joe Rothwell doesn't have, the fitness. I have never seen a team be so fit in my life. There were boys running about that park for 90 minutes straight, not even blowing at any point, not taking a break. So I honestly, sorry, had a wee bop there. Uh, I honestly believe SK Brann could absolutely do Rangers some serious, serious damage in the Europa League. Looking at their other ties, you've got Roma. Um, Roma are beating them, let's face it. Um, they've got a few tasty ties in there. They'll be welcome Braga. Obviously, they'll like that tie. They've beat Braga a few times. Genk, Yanis Hadji, bit of a rivalry there, bit of a storyline there. I can see Rangers making the top eight. I can, but I do think we're going to see embarrassing defeats from Rangers to Roma. I think they'll beat Porto. I do think they'll beat Porto, even though they lost to them in the Champions League a few years ago. But I think SK Brann will
Oh,
beat Rangers 5-0.
when did
No,
Rangers lose to
I, I,
Porto in the
I agree that
Champions League?
I think Alex was about to say that. I don't know when. I don't think
Sorry,
Porto did.
sorry, I mixed up
Rangers.
I mixed up Napoli and Porto in my
All
head.
right, okay. I was just gonna make a last point before I think we go on to
Last time Rangers played Porto, they beat them and drew with them. So
yeah in the Europa League. Yeah, I remember. Morelos scored a really nice goal in Portugal.
and
If I remember correctly.
and Rocks, he scored them both when he was a
Yeah,
machine and not.
yeah, that was probably prime Alfredo Morelos. I don't think we'd seen enough of that
No,
from him. But yeah, I think Ryan makes some good points. I think Norwegian football is probably one of the most underrated in the world. You look at Bodo Glimt have come on to a really good game, making the Champions League for the first time, Europa League semi-finalists last year. They obviously humbled Celtic a few years ago in Conference League qualifying in another embarrassing episode of Celtic in Europe. But I don't think Brann are going to beat Rangers 5-0. I think that is a bit of an
I
overstatement.
think it will be difficult for Rangers to go away to Brann.
Yeah, it will be. You're definitely right.
I don't think they're going to hammer them.
Yeah, there's no easy game. I think we look at the Europa League as a step down from the Champions League, but it's still good quality opposition, and they're there for a reason. I
And
do
now,
think Rangers have
sorry,
been handed a quite decent draw in the
yeah.
grand scheme of things when you look at Celtics.
And now, if we go into the Conference League, you said the Europa League's a step down. Aberdeen might fixtures might actually be a step up, as they will host. Obviously, the Conference League's only 6 games, but they will host Shakhtar Donetsk, Strasbourg, and FC Noah, and they will go away to Sparta Prague, AEK Athens, and AEK Larnaca.
Yeah,
So this is a really, really tough draw for the Dons.
yeah. As you could almost look at the first four teams, especially, and think that was a Europa League group and there is obviously some really quality teams that miss out in the Champions League and Europa League and drop down to the Conference League. Shakhtar Donetsk a few seasons ago, where you would say an established Champions League team with the amount of times and how consistently they were in it, obviously falling all the way down to the Conference League now. Sparta Prague, another good European side who I believe were in the Champions League last season, if I'm not mistaken. Chelsea own Strasbourg and they've invested a lot of money this season, so they'll have one of the biggest budgets in the tournament. Obviously, coming out of Liga as well helps. I think we've spoke about many Celtic Champions League qualifying disappointments. Another one, AEK Athens, be another tough opponent. The one that I don't know too much about and is maybe Aberdeen's route to points is Club Noah from Armenia. I'm not too sure about them, but
They've been
even
all
tra-
right actually over recent years. They're popping up a little bit more.
yeah, but that's the opportunity that the Conference League gives, sort of the little bit of unknown nations. And finally, just my final thoughts on the final game. They travelled to Cyprus to face direct coefficient country opponents in Cyprus, as we mentioned at the top of the show, and AEK Larnaca, who, if you remember, thrashed Legia Warsaw on the road to qualifying before being thrashed by Brann in the final round of Europa League qualifying. So they're a decent team if they're beating Legia Warsaw easily and Hibs are going out to them, then it shows they're a good level of opposition as well. So there really isn't any easy games for Aberdeen, and you could certainly make the case that it's a more difficult draw than maybe what even Rangers have got. And it's ridiculous to say, thinking we're talking about the Conference League, but hopefully the three teams, I would say, all get their act together and do their best for Europe because we really need it at this current time.
Yeah, definitely. What was I going to say? Has anyone got any other points to make?
I can confidently say Aberdeen are only going to pick up 3 points in the whole of the Conference League phase, and that's going to be to Noah. They're going to get papped off the next. They're going to get papped at Larnaca. They're going to get papped everywhere else. Sparta Prague, obviously Celtic know them very, very well. In recent years, absolutely demolition job on Celtic quite a few times. So Aberdeen are done for. Your European journey's over. Your league form's gonna go down as a result of your European exploits. There is an argument, to be fair, that the Scottish Cup victory they got has papered over the cracks at Pittodrie. They're not a very good footballing side. They're not a very good football team at the moment, to be honest with you. I don't think Jimmy Thaline's a very good manager. They're getting absolutely done in the Conference League, and they're going to finish bottom six, and we can all laugh at Aberdeen again.
Well, that is pretty harsh on Aberdeen, Jimmy Tilley and his players, but I think that shows the optimism that we're maybe carrying after this week in Europe. It's been an embarrassing, terrible, and disappointing week for Scottish football on a European stage, but we've got a massive couple of games, especially on Sunday with the Celtic Rangers game and the Dundee Derby as well, amidst St Mirren travelling to Easter Road. So, yeah, we've got some big games on at the weekend, and hopefully the football puts a smile back on our face. But I think that's all from us. Thank you very much for watching again. Go and check out the Twitter, the TikTok, of course, the Spotify. We're now on there at the Dugout. And thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Go check out Pitch and Patter.
Yeah, go and check out Pitch and Patter as well. I think, yeah, Alex mentioned it earlier, but go and check out Ryan on his socials as well, on Twitter and the Pitch and Patter TikTok and the Pitch and Patter Spotify. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.